I heard the breathing at 2:34 a.m., a slow, rhythmic inhale and exhale coming from inside my bedroom closet. Not the wind, not the pipes, not my imagination trying to make patterns from white noise. This was the unmistakable sound of lungs filling and emptying, steady and patient, like someone had been standing in there for hours waiting for me to notice. I live on the 4th floor of a building with locked windows, and I haven't had a visitor in 3 weeks. My name is Marcus Webb, and I moved into this apartment 6 months ago after my divorce. It's a studio in a converted textile factory in the warehouse district, all exposed brick and industrial windows. The kind of place that looks great in photos but feels cavernous when you're alone. The closet is original to the building, a deep walk-in space with no light that I mostly use for storage. I haven't been all the way to the back of it since I moved in. The breathing was coming from the back. I sat up in bed, my heart already racing, and stared at the closet door. It was closed just as I'd left it. The sound continued, steady and unhurried. Breath in for 4 seconds, out for 4 seconds, like someone doing meditation exercises in the dark. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, the beam shaking because my hands wouldn't stop trembling. "Hello." My voice came out as a whisper. The breathing stopped instantly, cut off. Mid-exhale, the silence that followed was somehow worse, expectant and alive. I sat frozen in bed for a full minute, listening to my own pulse hammer in my ears. Then, slowly, the breathing resumed, but faster now, excited, like whatever was in there was pleased that I'd noticed. I should have called the police right then. That's what any rational person would do, but part of me couldn't believe it was real. Couldn't accept that someone had broken into my apartment and decided to just stand in my closet breathing. It was too strange, too absurd. I convinced myself it had to be something else. Air moving through the building's old ventilation, a neighbor's noise traveling through the walls. Anything but the obvious. I got out of bed and approached the closet door. The breathing grew louder as I got closer. Definitely coming from inside. Definitely organic. My hand touched the doorknob and I felt vibration through the metal, the subtle tremor of sound waves. Something was producing enough volume that I could feel it. Something big enough to have lungs with real capacity. I turned the knob and pulled the door open. My phone's flashlight swept across my hanging clothes, my stacked boxers, my winter coats I hadn't touched in months. Everything looked normal. The breathing had stopped again the moment the door opened, leaving only silence and shadows. I pushed clothes aside and stepped into the closet, ducking under hanging shirts. The closet extended back about 8 feet, and I'd piled boxers along the rear wall. I hadn't organized them properly, had just stacked them haphazardly in the dark that first week after moving. Now I shined my light over them, looking for any sign of disturbance. The dust on top of the boxers was undisturbed. Nobody had been here. I laughed shakily, feeling foolish, and turned to leave. That's when I heard it behind me, right next to my ear. A long, slow exhale that moved my hair. I spun around and saw nothing, just the back wall of the closet and my stacked boxers. But I'd felt it, the warmth of breath on my neck, the moisture of it. Someone had been standing right behind me, someone invisible or faster than I could turn. I scrambled out of the closet so fast I tripped over my own feet, crashed into my dresser, sent my lamp flying. I slammed the closet door and shoved my dresser in front of it, adrenaline giving me strength I didn't know I had. Then I stood there, panting, staring at the barricaded door, waiting for it to burst open. It didn't. The apartment fell silent, except for my ragged breathing. I spent the rest of the night sitting in my kitchen with all the lights on and a knife from the drawer. Nothing happened. When dawn finally came and gray light filtered through the windows, I felt stupid and exhausted. I'd let my imagination run wild, had probably heard the upstairs neighbor or something through the vents. In daylight, the idea of someone hiding in my closet seemed ridiculous, but I didn't move the dresser. Not that day, not the next. I got clothes from the drawers and pretended the closet didn't exist. I told myself I'd deal with it on the weekend, maybe get a friend to come over and check it with me. Except I didn't really have friends anymore. Not after the divorce. Not after I'd isolated myself in this warehouse district where nobody lived except other lonely people in converted lofts. 3 nights later, it happened again. He woke at 3:15 a.m. to the sound of breathing, but this time it was louder, more labored, like whatever was in there had been exercising. The dresser was still in front of the closet door. Nothing could get out, yet the breathing was clear and close, and when I turned on my light, I saw the closet door was open about 6 inches. The dresser had been pushed aside. I watched in frozen horror as the door opened another inch, then another. The dresser scraped across the floor with a sound like a scream. Whatever was pushing had enormous strength, moving furniture that had taken all my effort to position. The breathing grew louder still, eager and hungry, and I could smell something now. Damp earth and rot, like a basement that had flooded and never dried. "What do you want?" I shouted, surprised by the steadiness in my voice. The door stopped moving. In the gap, I could see darkness deeper than should be possible, darkness that seemed to have texture and weight. Then a voice came from that darkness, my own voice, speaking words I'd never said. "I want you to remember what you did." My blood went cold. That was my voice, my exact tone and inflection, but I wasn't speaking. The thing in the closet was using my voice like a recording. "I want you to remember." It sighed again. And this time I recognized the words. I had said them years ago to my ex-wife during one of our last fights. "I want you to remember what you did to us." The memories hit me like a physical blow. The affair, the lies, the way I'd destroyed my marriage through selfishness and cowardice. I'd moved to this apartment to escape those memories, to start over in a place with no history. But somehow the history had followed me, had manifested in my closet, was using my own words against me. "You're not real," I said. "Your guilt, you're just my subconscious." The laughter that came from the closet was wrong, layered, my voice mixed with something else, something that had never been human. "Oh, Marcus, I'm much more real than guilt. I'm what lives in the spaces you don't look at. I'm what grows in the dark places you avoid, and you've been feeding me for 6 months." The door slammed open, the dresser sliding away like it weighed nothing. Darkness poured out of the closet, actual physical darkness that spread across my floor like oil. I ran for the apartment door, but it wouldn't open. The deadbolt wouldn't turn. The chain wouldn't slide, like the metal had fused solid. I was trapped in here with whatever I'd been living with. I turned to see the darkness rising, forming a shape. It was roughly human, about 7 feet tall, but the proportions were wrong. Arms too long, fingers too many. A head that tilted at angles that should be impossible. And it was made of shadow, a shadow that moved wrong, that flowed upward instead of falling, that had substance and weight. "What are you?" I backed against the door, knife raised uselessly. The shadow thing tilted its head, studying me with attention it shouldn't possess given it had no eyes. "I'm a closet dweller. We live in the dark spaces of your dwellings, feeding on what you put there. Most times it's just old clothes and forgotten boxers, stale air and dust. We stay small. We stay quiet." It moved closer, flowing across the floor. "But you brought me something special. You brought me shame and regret, pain and self-hatred. You stood in your closet that first week, hanging your clothes, and you radiated such delicious anguish. You thought about your ex-wife, about your failures, about how you deserved to live in this empty box alone. You fed me a feast." I slashed at it with the knife. The blade passed through shadow and struck nothing. The thing laughed again. That awful double. 6 months I've been growing, feeding on every moment you hate yourself. Every night you lie awake, replaying your mistakes. You're a buffet of misery, Marcus. And now I'm strong enough to leave the closet, strong enough to be with you always. It was right. I had been torturing myself for 6 months, maybe longer. The divorce had broken something in me, made me spiral into depression and self-loathing. I'd moved here to be alone with my guilt, had practically wallowed in it. And somehow that emotional poison had fed this thing, given it power. "The closet is just where we enter," it continued, circling me now. "But we can be anywhere dark. Under your bed, behind your shower curtain." In the gap, behind your refrigerator, Anywhere you don't look, we can be. And you've made me so strong, Marcus. Strong enough to touch you. A shadowy hand reached out and brushed my face. It was cold, so cold it burned. And where it touched, my skin went numb. Primera Jaktawai, my mind racing. If you feed on my emotions, what happens if I stop? What if I let go of the guilt? The shadow recoiled slightly. You can't. Humans never can. You'll carry this forever, and I'll grow stronger. Eventually, I'll be strong enough to take physical form. I'll wear your face, live your life, and you'll be the one in the closet. Breathing in the dark, but its reaction told me I was onto something. It was threatened by the idea. I thought about my ex-wife, about the affair, about all of it. And for the first time in months, I let myself feel something other than guilt. I felt angry. Angry at myself, yes, but also angry at her, at the marriage that had been dying long before I cheated, at the situation that had broken us both. It wasn't all my fault, I said aloud. The shadow hissed, its form flickering. She hurt me too. We hurt each other. It was a bad marriage that ended badly, and that's tragic. But it doesn't make me a monster, Wheat H-word. The shadow grew less solid, less defined. It was shrinking, pulling back toward the closet. No! It screamed, lunging at me. Shadow hands grabbed my throat, and they were solid now, choking me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The cold spread through my body, paralysing me. I was going to die here, killed by my own guilt made manifest. The edges of my vision went dark. Then I thought of something else. Forgiveness. Not my ex-wife's forgiveness. Not anyone else's. My own. I forgave myself. For the affair, for the lies, for being a flawed human who made terrible choices. I accepted what I'd done and chose to move forward instead of drowning in it. The shadow's grip loosened. I forgive myself. I choked out. The hands released me entirely. I'm not going to carry this anymore. I'm done feeding you. The shadow was barely there now, wisps of darkness retreating toward the closet, but its voice still reached me. Fainter now, but venomous. There are other dark places, Marcus. Other closets. Other people drowning in guilt and shame. I'll feed elsewhere. We always do. It disappeared into the closet, and the darkness went with it. I stood there gasping, my throat bruised, my mind reeling. The closet looked normal now, just a storage space full of boxers and clothes. But I knew what I'd experienced was real. The numbness on my face, where it had touched me, the bruises forming on my neck, they were proof. I spent the rest of the night researching. There were stories scattered across obscure forums and folklore sites about closet dwellers. Entities that lived in dark, enclosed spaces, and fed on negative emotions. Most accounts described them as harmless, minor nuisances. But some people reported experiences like mine, the things growing strong, becoming physical, sometimes taking over completely. One account from 1973 described a man in Ohio who became obsessed with a tragedy in his past. His family reported he spent hours sitting in his closet, talking to himself. They found him one morning sitting in the dark, and when he turned around, his eyes were completely black. He attacked them with inhuman strength. They locked him in a psychiatric facility, where he died 3 weeks later. In the photos, he looked like himself, but somehow hollow, like something else was wearing him. I moved out the next day, took only what I could carry, left everything else. I found a new apartment with no closets, just an open wardrobe rack and storage shelves. I started therapy, really dealt with my divorce and my role in it. I practiced forgiveness, not just for myself, but in general, trying to starve whatever piece of that thing might have stayed with me. But sometimes, late at night, I hear breathing. It comes from under the bed, or behind the bookshelf, or from the dark space behind the water heater. And I know it's still there, just smaller now, waiting for me to slip, to spiral back into self-hatred, to feed it again. The closet dweller is patient. It has all the time in the world. I'm writing this as a warning. Check your closets, your dark spaces, the places you don't look. And more importantly, check your emotions. Don't marinate in guilt and shame. Don't torture yourself over past mistakes. Because something is listening in the dark, and your pain is its food. The more you suffer, the stronger it grows. And if you hear breathing where there shouldn't be any, don't ignore it like I did. Don't let it grow. Face what's feeding it. Forgive yourself. Move forward, because the alternative is waking up one night to find yourself on the wrong side of the darkness, breathing in someone else's closet, wearing their voice, hungry for their pain. The closet dwellers are real. They're in every home, every apartment, every building with dark spaces. Usually they're dormant, barely existing, but feed them your anguish and they wake up. They grow. They hunger, and eventually they come out of the closet. I still hear it breathing sometimes, a reminder of what I almost became. But now when I hear it, I breathe back. I breathe and I let go and I refuse to feed it. And slowly, gradually, the breathing from the dark grows fainter, but it never completely stops. It's always there, always waiting, always hungry, just like it's waiting in your closet right now.